Mr. President, the United States is under attack. We are under attack not a week ago, a month ago, September 11th, or yesterday, but right at this moment. We are under attack from state actors, from terrorists, non-state actors, and from garden variety criminals. This cyber issue is one of the most serious that we face. When I first got here, I was appointed to the Armed Services and Intelligence Committee. And on those two committees, over the past 3 years, at least half of our hearings have touched upon this issue and the threat that it presents to this country. The leaders of our intelligence community, our military community, in open session and in closed session, have sounded the alarm over and over and over. The most dramatic, and I don't remember the hearing, was one of our witnesses said the next Pearl Harbor will be cyber. And as the senator from Missouri just pointed out, we're fortunate that we've had a number of warning shots, but none have been devastating. But we have had warning shots at Sony, at Target, at Anthem, at the Office of Personnel Management of the United States government, at the home email of the director of the CIA. We've had large and small intrusions and cyber attacks that have been more than annoying, but so far, they haven't been catastrophic. That is just a matter of time. And that's why we have to move this bill. And this bill isn't a comprehensive answer to this question, but it's at least a piece of it. It's a beginning. And we're going to have to talk about other aspects of our cyber strategy. But at least we can pass this bill that came out of the committee 14-1. It's bipartisan. It's got support in the House. Let's do something. I do not want to go home to Maine and try to explain to my constituents when the natural gas system or the electric system is brought down that we couldn't quite get around to it because of the difference of committee jurisdictions or because we had other priorities or because we were tied up in the budget. This is a priority. It is something we should be doing immediately, and I'm delighted that we've moved to it. Now, as I've sat in the Intelligence Committee every Tuesday and Thursday afternoon for the past 3 years, it occurred to me several months into those debates and discussions of this and other issues that really we in the Intelligence Committee and also we in this body really are working with and weighing and balancing two constitutional provisions. The first is the preamble of the Constitution. The most basic responsibility of any government, anywhere, anytime, is to provide for the common defense. That's why governments are formed, to provide the security and also to ensure domestic tranquility. Those two together are the basic functions of why we're here, to protect our people from harm. And that's clearly what this bill is talking about. But the other constitutional provision that's in the picture that we also have to weigh is the Fourth Amendment. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, paper, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated. That's a fundamental premise of who we are as a people. These two provisions of the Constitution are in tension, Mr. President. Neither one dominates, neither one controls the other, and it's our job in this body to continuously weigh and calibrate these two provisions and their balance in light of threats and evolving technologies. When the Fourth Amendment was written, nobody ever heard of telephones. They certainly never heard of the internet. They never thought about any of these things, but they said the rights shall not be violated. But it's interesting, unreasonable searches and seizures. They didn't know what the threats that we would be facing when they said that it's a fundamental premise of the United States Constitution that we should protect against both foreign and domestic enemies. But that's what we have to do, and that's what this bill does. This bill is very carefully worked out with a lot of discussion and negotiation to be effective in protecting the public while at the same time be effective in protecting the public's privacy rights, in respecting these two principles. We've had warning after warning after warning, and now it is time for us to act. The good news about the United States is that we're the most wired nation in the world. Technology has been a huge boon to our economy and to our people. And we are way ahead of a lot of the rest of the world in our interrelationship with technology and how we've used it to enhance our lives. That's the good news. The bad news is we're the most wired country in the world because that means we're the most vulnerable. Asymmetric vulnerability. We are more vulnerable because we're more connected. And that means that we have to take great care in this country to be sure that we don't allow that vulnerability to result in a catastrophic loss for our people. Not only are we talking about national security issues, we're talking about individual people's lives. If the electric grid went down, people's lives would and could be lost. In hospitals, at traffic intersections across the country, if the natural gas system, the vast pipeline system that links our country in terms of energy, somehow went awry because of a cyber intrusion into the operating system, that would have devastating consequences for human lives and also, of course, for the economy of our country. Somebody could get into the routing system of a railroad and a train carrying hazardous material would be caused to derail. These are the kinds of things that can happen and will likely happen unless we take steps to protect ourselves. Some of these attacks and intrusions are sponsored by nation states. We know that. Some of them are sponsored by just garden variety criminals who are trying to steal our money. Or some of them are large international criminal organizations that are trying to steal our commercial intelligence about how we build our products and how we compete. Some of them are terrorist organizations who see this as a cheap way to attack America. Why go to all the trouble to build a bomb and smuggle into the country and all the risks that that entails when you can disrupt the country in just as great a way with a few strokes on a laptop? Economic security, national security. Economics, it's been estimated worldwide, this costs our country cybercrime $445 billion a year. That's to the global economy, $500 billion a year. 200,000 jobs in the U.S. could and are being affected. 800 million personnel records stolen. 40 million were Americans. The cost of cybercrime is estimated to be between 15 and 20% of the value created by the internet. And we always talk about we don't want any taxes on the internet. This is a tax. This is a tax that we're all paying, that the users of the internet are paying to ward off this epidemic of cybercrime. It's not only the government, Mr. President, of course it's companies. Sony, Target, Anthem, the industrial base, J.P. Morgan, Home Depot, the list goes on. And most importantly, it's not just big guys. Sometimes we feel that, okay, well, this is, the large banks, the large insurance companies, that's who has got to worry about this. In the state of Maine, we have to worry about it. I've been meeting, my staff in Maine has reached out to businesses, large and small, across the state. Every single one, with one exception, listed cyber intrusion as one of their greatest issues. We've got the Maine Credit Union League, $2.5 million a year, little local credit unions having to deal with cyber intrusion. One of our main healthcare providers, thousands of attempts to steal confidential data every year. Keeping the data safe is costing them more than $1 million. That goes into our healthcare bills. This is costing us real money. One of our main financial institutions, 60 to 70% of the emails they get in the bank are phishing emails trying to compromise their secure data. One of our utilities, over $1 million a year just on preventive costs to defend against cyber crime. And this is in a state of 1.3 million people. This is real. This is real in our state. I had a forum over the summer break, over the August break, with businesses throughout Maine, mostly small businesses and Homeland Security. We had 100 businesses come just to visit and sit for a day to talk about this issue, and these were small businesses, and all of them were seeing these kinds of problems. One was a small business with 35 employees, which did a deal overseas, and a cyber criminal stole their payment, in effect. They sent a fake invoice to the customer overseas. The customer paid it. The money went to the crook, not to my company in Maine. That's the kind of thing that's happening. And that's one of the reasons that we have to take action today. No business is immune. No individual is immune. And of course, this country is not immune. The price of inaction, Mr. President, is just too high. This is something we must attend to. As I mentioned, this bill is not the whole answer, but it's a part of the answer. And some people say, well, it's not broad enough. And my answer is, okay, I understand that, but let's do what we can do and then take it one step at a time. Some people say it compromises privacy. I don't believe that it does. Extraordinary measures were imported into this bill in order to protect the privacy of individuals. This is not about individual data. This is about a company voluntarily telling the government and perhaps some other companies, here's what I'm seeing as an attack. How can we collectively defend ourselves against it? That's what this bill is really all about. We've got to take action, Mr. President. And now is the time. I want to thank the chair and the vice chair of the Intelligence Committee, the members of the Homeland Security Committee, members of the Judiciary Committee, all of those who have contributed to the finalization of this important piece of legislation. There's an attitude out there that we can't get anything done around here. I think this gives us an opportunity to prove that idea wrong. We can get things done, we should get things done, and this is a chance for us to protect our people, to provide for the common defense, which is our most solemn constitutional responsibility, in a way that also protects the interests of the Fourth Amendment and individual privacy rights. Mr. President, I hope that we can move swiftly, complete the consideration of this bill this week, work out our differences with the House, and get this matter to the President. We have no place to hide if we don't get this done. This is what we're here for. And I want to again thank my colleagues who worked so hard to bring us to this point. Mr. President, I yield the floor.